What's up, design family, and welcome back to another episode of Fittdesign TV. So glad to have you back on the channel. Before we get started, if you guys are not subscribed, please consider doing so. We put out great content on a week-to-week basis on all things fashion design, graphic design, manufacturing, and logistics, and it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to join us along for the ride. On today's episode, we'll be looking at faux or artificial leather. What is it? What are the main materials that are used to create faux leather? What are the main disadvantages and advantages of going with faux leather as opposed to real leather? And ultimately, what are the easiest and key ways to distinguish between real and artificial leather, whether you're in store or you're at a supplier trying to make a decision? That way, you know that you're getting what you actually are intending to get, aka no one's cheating you, and at the same time, you're making an educated decision when it comes to your consumer purchase. Hey guys, and welcome to Fittdesign TV. So glad to have you here. On this channel, we discuss all things sports fashion, graphic design, manufacturing, and technology. We'll discuss key topics, answer pressing questions, and provide actionable steps on starting your own product line. If you're interested in any of the above topics, stick around. You're in for a good one. Getting right into it, faux or artificial leather is sometimes commonly referred to as leatherette, pleather, vegan leather is a alternative. It's a man-made synthetic alternative to natural animal leather. And there are a variety of reasons why you may go for fake leather as opposed to natural leather. It could be a personal lifestyle choice. You're against the use of animals to create leather. It could be a cost savings choice or a variety of other choices. Maybe you just like the robustness and actual maintenance of a fake leather as opposed to a real leather. When it comes to the key materials that we see being used to create fake leathers, there are two key families that actually constitute the majority of fake leather that we see on the market. The first one is going to be your PU faux leather fabric, otherwise known as polyurethane, and then the other one is known as PVC faux leather fabric, otherwise known as polyvinyl chloride. When it comes to our polyurethane faux leather, this is essentially either referred to as pie-cast or bi-cast leather, and the core fundamental of this leather is it's based on a woven or a non-woven structure that is made out of fibrous leather that is laminated or coated with a 100% polyurethane surface finish. Second is our PVC faux leather. So PVC faux leather is actually a synthetic vinyl material that is made of polyvinyl chloride that has added plasticizers which actually sit on top of the non-woven or woven fabric base. And now that we've discussed what faux artificial leather actually is, how it's made, and we want to now consider why should you go for faux leather? Is this something that's suitable for you and your needs? This is what we're going to discuss. What are the advantages and disadvantages, whether you're a consumer looking to buy a faux leather good or you're a designer looking to implement it into your next collection. When it comes to the advantages, faux leather, and this is an example of faux leather right here, is very easy to cut and sew, so it's quite workable. It also has a very consistent appearance. You don't notice the blemishes, the marks on it because there are none. There's no mosquito bites, there's no scars, so on and so forth. It's also quite easy to reduce the appearance of needle marks because the texture itself is quite consistent. When you actually tear into the fabric or tear into the artificial leather, you don't notice the holes that are created once the needle punctures the surface of the skin. This makes it a lot easier to work with, and there's a clear example of the difficulty of working with natural leather. A company like Porsche actually ends up throwing out 80% of the hide when it comes to making its leather seats. This is because there's a high quality maintenance and quality control that they have to maintain, and they end up throwing out a lot of the hide because of blemishes, scars, marks, inconsistencies in the texture, the density. With PVC or PU leather, you don't have any of that in there. Also, it's a lot easier to dye, and the color fastness, aka the level at which it absorbs dyes, their vibrancy and their consistency, is a lot easier to have when it comes to your fake leather. And then lastly, there is a lower price associated with using faux leathers as opposed to natural leathers. And when it comes to the disadvantages of faux or artificial leather, these primarily stem from the fact that it's artificial. It's not the skin of a living, breathing animal. So it lacks any of those pores. The pores that allow a animal leather to breathe, to stretch, those are non-existent in a PVC or a PU leather. So this makes it quite unbreathable. It lacks stretch. And then lastly, it's quite easy to tear or peel over time. Whereas a natural leather may have a nice patina, it may take on a nice color over time, it may break in, it may get worn in, and that almost adds to the character of the product over time. With your fake or artificial leather, what ends up happening over time is the robustness it once had, the solidity, the structure, the rigidity, ends up waning over time, and it can actually end up cracking, peeling, or even completely tearing over time without actually giving that nice worn-in look that you get from your real leathers. Now that we've discussed the advantages and disadvantages of faux or artificial leather, what are some of the ways that you can distinguish between fake and real leather? Let's just say you are at a bazaar and a wily salesperson is claiming something is real leather, but the price seems too good to be true. How do you tell? Just by touching and feeling the fabric. Well, it's quite simple. There are key differences between artificial and natural leathers, and I'll run you through them right now. So let's take a look at an example of natural or real leather and fake or artificial leather. On this hand, I have the natural leather, this hand, the artificial leather. The first way to tell is by looking at the reverse side of the material. When it comes to your fake leather, the backside will almost look very fake, artificial. It will look like a textile, or it will have this very plastic coated appearance. On this side, I have this pseudo suede, pseudo fleece-like. There's a clear tell sign that this is a fake piece of leather on this side, and you can't really tell because it's double layered. But if I was to take this fabric out and to actually be able to see the underside of leather, I'll get a very fibrous piece of leather, and you'd almost be able to tell that this is the underside of this piece. The second way that you can tell is by looking at the grain pattern. This is the texture that you see on the upper surface of the layer, and with a fake leather, it's extremely mechanical, it's very precise, it's very uniform. There's zero to no distortion or change of the grain pattern over the entirety of the actual piece, whereas with your natural leather, no two hides are alike. They come from two different animals that have had their own lives, and the story is there for you to see. So there's a lot more variation in the grain pattern itself with real leather. The third way to tell the difference between artificial leathers and real leathers is by cutting them. Obviously, you don't want to do this on an expensive piece, but if you were to take a piece of natural hide versus synthetic hide, you'll be able to see that the synthetic leather will have an extremely precise and smoothly cut edge. Whereas with a natural leather, you have these fibers come out that are a clear indicator of the sort of intricacy and the complexity of this epidermis layer. So that's one of the key ways to tell. You have this fibrous finish once you cut on a real leather, and you have this clean and precise mechanical finish on a fake leather. Fourthly, we'll look at the smell of each. When it comes to your fake leathers, they really don't smell like anything. If they do smell like anything, it's like they smell like the factory or they smell like plastic. When it comes to real leather, and anyone who's ridden in a new car or has got a new wallet will know that it smells very earthy and almost has a sweet smell to it. Fifth is a test of the breathability. When it comes to a fake leather, let's just say something like a fake leather jacket, when you put it on, you immediately feel the weight, you feel the presence of this jacket on you. It lets you know that it's there, and this is because it's not breathing. When a garment breathes, it almost transcends that fabric layer and allows you to almost feel your surroundings. Obviously, a good leather jacket will also keep you warm, and that's what a natural leather will do. It'll give you that sense of warmth, but it won't make you feel like you're trapping in all the moisture and the heat. This is because of its breathability, because of the pores in a natural leather. And lastly, we'll be able to tell the difference between both through their heat reaction. You can perform what is known as a burn test, and if you were to burn a real piece or a fake piece of leather, what you'll notice is this. It's going to melt and burn extremely well. It'll almost disappear. When you do burn it, the after smell, what you're going to smell is the plastic. That's a clear indicator that this is a fake leather. When it comes to real leather, yes, it will also burn, but when it's burning, it'll almost glow, and you won't be left with nothing. You'll be left with this solid melted chunk of leather afterwards, and it almost smells like burnt hair when it's burning. Putting these aside, and that is pretty much it, guys. Now you have a clear idea of what faux artificial leather is, what are the two main types of fake leather on the market, what are the advantages and disadvantages of both, and ultimately you'll know how to protect yourself against a wily salesperson trying to sell you a fake real leather jacket by telling you the difference between fake leather and real leather. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, smash a thumbs up. It really does help us out, and it encourages us to keep putting out this content for you guys, which we love to do. Again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Fittdesign TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.